back to square one. And I think we all feared this might happen. And they come to a game where they're expected to win, they're expected to impose themselves. I thought it was awful.
If we did get a win, then we'd be in the top six. So it almost doesn't make sense, because what we witnessed last night, you don't deserve to be. And
he could have gone Dalot, De Ligt, Yoro and Shaw at the back, Fernandes, Casemiro and Manu in midfield.
Crookie's come up with some solutions there. He's got it all worked out. There's the Ray for Ray licence right there. Well, not hard.
Have you got your badges, Crookie?
Famously not, as David Moyes once told me. But listen, I'm not a multi-million-pound football manager.
It's just a headache. That's the most that we can cause teams. So all the other team needs to do is take paracetamol. You know, it's as simple as that. It's like building a house. You can't say we need to build the foundations and then complain when the scaffolding's up and there's a bit of a wobble here and a bit of a wobble here. Giving Ruben Amorim time are the solutions, in my opinion.
For me, that was as lamentable as what we saw against Grimsby.
Hello, welcome back to Inside Devils, sponsored by TalkSPORT BET, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything going on inside and outside of Old Trafford. A quick reminder to you guys, if you bet £10, you can get £40 in free bets. The details are on screen right now. It was a monstrosity of a performance last night. There's been so many anniversaries of Ruben's first day in the job. First day he got announced as Man United manager. First day at Carrington. And then the other anniversary, a year to the day of the first game since Ipswich. And that's what it looked like last night at Old Trafford. Let's welcome in Crookie, of course, Angelina and Ryon. Crookie, you were fuming, absolutely fuming last night, as were all of us, in the group chat going off. Have you managed to calm down, and have you managed to have a different take of it now that you're in the morning after?
Not really, which I guess is a sign of just how pitiful the performance was. I was on breakfast with Alan Brazil and Alan McCoist on Tuesday morning, and I said in many ways this was as humiliating as what happened against Grimsby in the League Cup, to play against 10 men for pretty much 80 minutes. This is not an Everton side who are particularly free scoring anyway, and to refuse to deviate from the system, to stick with that back three when clearly three central defenders weren't needed, I think is a massive dereliction of duty as far as Ruben Amorim is concerned. I'm not going to take the focus away from the players, because you need them to go out and be brave in possession and create opportunities. They didn't do that, but they just looked stifled by the system, and Everton found it far too easily to defend, despite the fact they were a man light. So for all the progress that has been made over the past 5 games, this was very much back to square one. And I think we all feared this might happen, because if you look at the recent history of Manchester United and this group of players, they can get themselves up for the big games, the trips to Anfield and even at home to a good Brighton side. But then they come to a game where they're expected to win, they're expected to impose themselves, particularly against 10 men, and they don't have the character or the capability to do it. I thought it was awful.
It was. I echo everything you said there. I mean, Ryon, I know you tried to stay positive and stuff. Is there any defence of what we saw last night, and is it important that we don't overreact after somewhat of a decent run?
Well, the first part is no, there's no positives from last night. There's literally no positives whatsoever, and you can try and be the most optimistic Man United fan. Like myself, I try and give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but there was no benefit of the doubt in isolation last night. And the problem is, we've been here so many times before where I've said it's part players and part manager, equal responsibility, and we're here again. Everybody was rubbish. You know, there was no pivoting in game from Amorim. It was almost like the fact that Everton went down to 10 men. Good of them to go down to 10 men for us, by the way. Just get themselves sent off to help us out, and it still didn't work. He didn't pivot. He still got too many defenders on the field. There's a stubbornness from Amorim still. I know. You know, he sticks to his guns, but I think, you know, Mbumo and Ahmad on the right-hand side has been one of the few positives of Manchester United's season.
He keeps changing.
And he keeps changing. And look, Ahmad did have a good game, but why not put Bruno? Sheshko's injured, Cunha's injured. Why not put the best 10 in the league in the 10 and start Kobbie Mainoo for these games? There's just a stubbornness there that is, it's alarming at points, and we've said this before, but then the players... Flex, they were second to every ball. So look, it's part manager, yes, but the players were. It was a really, really toothless performance from them yesterday. It didn't look like they wanted it as much as Everton wanted it. They were second to everything, and so I mean, it's important not to overreact. But when you ask me about that performance in isolation, it was horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, this was the last thing Ruben Amorim needed, and we needed after somewhat turning the ship around. It's all okay again and everything's fine. And then you get these reminders. You know, we've gone from unbeaten in 5 to now you're looking at going to Palace, and if you don't win there, no wins in 4. Like, the narrative can change very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's the blessing and the curse of this Premier League season that we're witnessing, that people, you know, Liverpool, Spurs and United, you know, all on the same points. We've seen, you know, Liverpool completely drop off. And it's meant that things are happening that we don't expect. And as much as that you just mentioned, Flex, you know, United are only 1 point off 6th. And if we did get a win, then we'd still be, you know, we'd be in the top 6. So it almost doesn't make sense, because what we witnessed last night, you don't deserve to be in that position. And I genuinely was looking at it thinking, we've built so much momentum. We've done all this hard work. Maybe it is down to something like an international break, but an international break shouldn't rock you that much to be so terrible. And, you know, you look at the situation, and it's just so frustrating. And you can talk about, you know, certain players that were missing. I think the team selection was not good.
You think you got it wrong?
Yeah, I think, like we were saying, the way that Mbeumo and Ahmad have been dovetailing so nicely, you almost don't want to disrupt that. But then, you know, I had a bit of like PTSD watching Joshua Zirkzee, and I don't mean to be horrible to the poor lad, but he's not good. And he's not even getting minutes anyway. So throwing him into that, he looked so lost at times. I know there was 1 or 2 chances, but, you know, I think there was one of them, you could tell that he didn't even realise his positioning. When he went to hit it, it was just so bad. You know, could we have even tried putting Mbeumo up front? Put Ahmad on the right, put Mount on the left, just anything that I would have had more faith in that than I would have with Joshua Zirkzee.
I was a lot of people, you know, I was doing a reaction outside Old Trafford, and a couple of supporters walked past me and they said, playing with Zirkzee, he's like playing with 10 men. You know, they're on him, and a couple of people sitting around me were like, oh, Zirkzee. And is it a bit harsh? Actually, I asked Crookie on this, actually, because Andrew's sort of brought us up on this point. Is it harsh for it to be labelled at Xerxes' doorstep and just putting up there, it doesn't get minutes, you're often an unused
You set him up to fail.
But at the same time, if Šeško's injured, Cunha's injured, you know, we pay him a lot of money to be at this football club.
You're not standing up
way.
to be counted.
He's got. It's an opportunity, right? And he looked like a player who obviously is rusty because he doesn't play. Also had some nice touches, and actually, as the game got towards the dying embers, he was the one getting shots on target, forcing Pickford into saves.
Yeah, there was one header that Pickford did well to tip past the post, but there was another header where he absolutely got nowhere near the target. Do I blame Joshua Zirkzee? No, because you say he's not even been coming on in games, really. He's been unused sub for most of the season. So to expect him to lead the line against quite a physical Everton.
Tarkowski was roughing him up, wasn't he? He was getting in his head. And Zirkzee didn't really like it, did he?
No, right from the off, Tarkowski left one on him and he never really recovered from that. I didn't understand why he didn't play Mason Mount. He's done that at times this season. It's worked quite well. If he wants to stick to this system, I agree with Ahmad. I think he's far more effective as a number 10 than he is as a wing-back. I actually thought Bryan Mbeumo probably had his poorest game in a Manchester United shirt. He looked lost like the rest of them as well. But when the team sheet was handed in, I feared the worst, not just because of Joshua Zirkzee, but you've got Mazraoui as a wing-back, and you know he struggles in that position.
It's Mazraoui and Dorgu is what I looked at and went, when they're on the ball, I mean, we're going to struggle here. We need Cunha and Mbeumo.
It was weak.
Sorry, Mbeumo and Ahmad to be at it today. And I think the 10 men as well, Crookie, is it fair to say it actually didn't help us? It made it harder for us. It made it worse for us.
I actually think the rot had set in before that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe, and you were inside the stadium, how quiet it was at Old Trafford.
There was nothing.
The crowd seemed to be not up for the game. And having said that the players needed to be 100% at it from the start, Ruben Amorim, they were anything but. So it was lethargic, there was a lack of energy, and that was even before the red card. But they were given a massive advantage. I don't think it was a sending off, by the way. It's not really a slap, is it? It's just a sort of coming together.
It's contact, though. I'm not having it.
I don't think the referee needed to send him off, but ultimately we didn't take advantage anyway.
Yeah. Amorim said as well, Angie, he was like, I like to see my play. Well, David Moyes says he likes to see his players fighting, so he's not that mad. But Amorim also says he didn't agree with the red card.
In my opinion, you cannot go round slapping people. If you walk into your place of work and you slap someone, whether it's hard or soft or weak or whatever, it's still your place of work.
Can't do that in here.
And I'm sorry, but David no, we can't do that here. We've wanted to, but we've not. No, I'm kidding. But listen, had they have not won that game, David Moyes would not have come out and been so laid back about it. He would have said, you've let the team down, this, that. And it's good that, the player has seemingly taken responsibility and apologised. But for me, it then starts to become a debate of where do you draw the line. And I get what people are saying, that you could argue that maybe he should have managed the game a little bit more, the ref, and maybe, it should have been more of a conversation and whatever. And, you talk about Michael Keane kind of, shoved him first. Or listen, you're putting your hand up to someone's face. For me, like, any contact is not happening, because otherwise, like, oh, well, does it have to be this hard, or does it need to leave a mark or whatever? No, like,
I don't know. I
get what people are saying, but for me, contact is contact.
I was like, what's happened? I was so far away from it, but where I was sitting, there was TV screen, so I was like, because I couldn't see in first. I thought, let me see.
Even watching at home, it was
like, what's he? He's kind of as if to say, get off of me. And Michael Keane puts his hands on him first and pushes him.
Yeah.
And then fair play to a game. Shut up, mate. What you took, sort of thing. So
to be manhandled off the pitch by Jordan Pickford, that was just
that's
more embarrassing.
If I was the referee, I wouldn't have sent him off. But anyway, listen.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, because we were still terrible. We didn't use the 10 players to our advantage.
Exactly. I'm looking at some of the stats here, Ryan. You're a stats man. Man United 23 shots to Everton's 2. We had 6 on target to Everton's 1, which was obviously that goal. 70% possession to 30% Everton, which obviously suggests, with the man advantage. But when you see those stats and you didn't watch the game, you maybe go, Man United were at it. Pickford probably made 6 saves. They had 23 shots. They must have been banging the door down all night. Just couldn't get through.
Yeah.
But when you watch the game, those stats don't tell you how the game actually played out, do they?
No, it didn't unravel that way. And that's why everything needs a little bit of context. I think it does point to a bit of a personnel issue as well, though. Like I've said it before, they just didn't get up for the game, and the chances that they architected were just not good enough. And you mentioned Xerxes earlier. That header, he kind of dug that out of nowhere, really. It actually ended up being a really good header. But we need to be careful as Man United fans, right, that we individualise players too much, because I've been seeing a lot of hate for Joshua Xerxes over the last 24 hours, less than 24 hours. I don't understand where that's coming from. Yeah, I just don't understand that. We need, obviously, I get it. And it's why I don't make the comment section often, because I don't lose my head like that. And people, do you know what I mean?
That's only Crookie.
Yeah, well, and people tend to react to hate more, I guess, and that's the way it is. But Joshua Xerxes, really, he's a striker who's got absolutely no minutes, and ultimately, but everybody was equal parts. Everybody was poor.
Really bad
when we can look at everyone's performance in isolation, but you can't single out Joshua Xerxes and say he was terrible. But with regards to the stats there, it proves that Manchester United, that they're still creating, but the calibre of the chances that they're creating are just not good enough. And as I say, it's equal parts Ruben Amorim and it's equal parts the players.
Jamie Carragher was talking about Amorim still staying with this always happens when we lose. The system, the formation. Crookie. Some of his criticism was labelled at Amorim by saying that, under those circumstances, playing against 10 men at home, to still have the 3 centre backs, you can change what you're doing stylistically, etc. But to still stay with the same formation, he thinks that Amorim will get quite a lot of the blame for last night's loss. Do you agree with that, or do we have to just accept now that this is how Amorim plays and it's what he does within that system?
I think it's hard to accept. I've already mentioned that Everton, even with 11 men, don't really have anybody at the top end of the pitch that can hurt you. Obviously, Beto is struggling for goals.
Tieno Barry was winning all the headers. And he's having a torrid time as well. And I thought, what's going on?
Yeah, but he's never going to score a goal.
Never.
So you don't need 3 centre-backs against that Everton team. Certainly not with 10 men. And you know what? I drafted a couple of things he could have done, because I think Cunha was a massive loss.
Yeah.
Okay, he would have brought that energy and that dynamism that was sadly lacking. But what he could have done after the sending off, he could have gone to a back 4 of Dalot, De Ligt, Yoro and Shaw. You could have played Ahmad, Fernandez, Mainu, and you could have pushed Dorgu up to the wide left position and then gone and Mbumo and Xerxes. So that would have been 4-4-2. Or he could have gone Dalot, De Ligt, Yoro and Shaw at the back, Fernandez, Casemiro and Mainu in midfield, and then he could have gone and Bumo, Xerxes and Mount as a front three. Now, I'm sorry, both of those formations would have been a lot more effective and would have carved out a lot more genuine goal-scoring opportunities than they did with the three centre-backs. Who were the two United players who touched the ball most in the second half? Lenny Yoro, who doesn't know what to do with it, and Luke Shaw, who frankly was appalling.
Yeah,
he had to change the system.
And that was by design, with Everton going, no problem, let Lenny Yoro have it, we're good. We'll just stay in 4-4-1 off the ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes a back five. You had Jack Grealish coming back at left wing back or left back essentially. You had Irabrumo in the second half, I think it was, doing the same thing. And Ndai before that doing the same thing, just making a back five or back six at times. And that was it. And we just had no answers. And Crookie's come up with some solutions there. He's got it all worked out. There's the Ray for Ray license right there. Well, not hard.
Have you got your badges, Crookie?
Famously not, as David Moyes once told me. But listen, I'm not a multi-million-pound football manager. I don't get paid anywhere near what Ruben Amorim does, and I'm not paid to pick the Manchester United team. But literally, off the top of my head, I can come up with two formations there that would have been better suited to last night's game.
Let's send him for his badges. Yeah. We'll have a whip round. We'll send him for his badges.
Hopefully he passes. Do you agree with what Crookie's saying there? And whilst you look at it, think that our manager would actually do it? Or have we just got enough evidence now to be like, yeah, Crookie, right, but Amorim's just never going to do it?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I totally get where Crookie's coming from, but it's not going to happen. And I know that Ruben Amorim, he spoke to Sam Matterface afterwards for TalkSport, and he basically said that he wanted to keep it to a system the players know and have practiced. So it's like, first United were bad because they didn't know the system, and now apparently they can't change the system because they could get worse and they don't know anything else. It's just back on this roundabout of the system debate, and it is really frustrating. And I just think, you're at home, you're down to 10 players, you've got, 5 defenders and Casemiro in front of them. You're actively just, thanks for that advantage of 10 players, but no, we're all right, we'll just stick to this. It's frustrating, and I will say, I thought Everton were good. I thought Jordan Pickford was brilliant, and I think that they are, Everton as a team, they're good at defending deep, playing without the ball, etc.
They were very organised.
And I think that, you look at people like Keane, Tarkovsky, Jake O'Brien, like they're all very good, all big defenders as well. And you've against someone like Xerxes, who is tall but has got no confidence, doesn't look that strong. Like you do feel bad for him. You see Ahmad a few times getting bullied. And this isn't the first time. You go back to last season when Everton played Arsenal and it was 0-0. Arsenal offered nothing. Arsenal fans were saying to me, it was like, we could have played all night and we still wouldn't have scored a goal. So they do have this in their locker. It's not an excuse because we were still poor. But, in terms of mid-table teams, their game plan and style is probably less affected compared to like a Bournemouth or a Fulham of going down to 10 players. So
I do agree with that.
Yeah, but again, I'm not trying to make excuses. I just think, you give Everton props, like they got it right. And I think in that situation of a player getting sent off in that way, you could completely capitulate or you band together and you put in a strong performance. So yeah, props to them. I agree with Crookie. I think we would have loved to have seen a change like that, something that really sent a strong message. But we know that it's not going to happen, unfortunately. And I think the excuses are just, again, it's so annoying because we kind of got away from all of this and everything was good, and then he's coming out saying stuff like that, I want to keep it to something that they've practiced and they know. It's like, what?
Yeah, I think this game, Ryan, for me, shows us, like, when we're asked to have the ball, when we're asked to be the dominant team, we struggle. And as soon as, listen, the first 13 minutes were poor from us anyway, didn't get out of the traps, like Crookie said. Old Trafford was flat. It didn't feel like a team that knew that this is the chance to show we're serious about hunting down the Champions League. Yeah. Like, we can get into top 4 legitimately after everyone's played.
I just think we're not there.
But we're not. But it's like, the opportunity to do it last night should have been taken. Yeah. Like, you can't take away from Everton 100%. They're no mugs, and it was always going to be a difficult game. But Gary Neville spoke about, like, he claimed that it smelt of complacency. Like, there wasn't enough urgency after we conceded as well. And I sensed that they were just sort of strolling through the game, taking a couple touches, going sideways.
I don't think they deserve Champions League then.
100%. And is that a worry for you, that actually we go on this good run where we start to think, you know what? Okay, we'll take those last 2 draws. But 3 wins on the bounce before that. We're in a good position to attack that now, and we can go and get the Champions League. But then you see a performance like that. Is that the wake-up call and the humbler to go, this is why.
It's really disappointing. I've got a few points here, so I'm going to try and formulate them before I forget. Watch the show back and think, I forgot. I should have said that. I think that the reason why you talk about those 5 games undefeated, and I mentioned it before, and it's been broken down everywhere, is because we've been going long ball, winning the second ball. Amorim identified we can't play out from the back, etc. In this game, and you mentioned it about going down to 10 men, how it hindered us. It looked like we're on the back foot anyway. So Everton may well have beat us anyway. But what happens when we go down to 10 men is essentially we start thinking we can play out from the back all of a sudden because we've got a man advantage.
Yeah, we didn't go long the whole game.
Yeah, but we can't. The players aren't good enough to play out from the back, and then therefore all the holes that everyone's been kind of prodding and going through, that when we've gone through this horrible barren run this whole time virtually, start to appear themselves again. And that's why a year on it looks exactly the same as it did a year ago, because we're trying to play it from the back and it doesn't play to our strengths. I've said this before about, and Ange touched on it there about the system, etc. I've said this before about this system. Ruben Amorim is clearly determined to perfect this system as opposed to pivoting and going elsewhere. He wants to perfect this system, have one system on the ball and off the ball, and do it really, really well, which is all good and well if you've perfected it. But as of right now, what's happening is the league, especially if you're doing your homework, they can have a look at this and come up with an antidote and a solution to this system. Right now, in terms of the antidote, what it's an antidote for, it's just a headache. It's just a headache. That's the most that we can cause teams. So all the other team needs to do is take paracetamol. It's as simple as that. There's not much that they need to do to poke through this system, and that is where the problem lies with him continuing to pick the same system. So it is a bit of a worry, this tactical stubbornness. I do feel like unless, and we've said it so many times, unless he pivots and he changes, it will bite him on the backside in the long run. It just will. So, and all of his post-match conferences, he seems to allude to the same thing. They don't know how to play in this scenario. They don't know how to play in this scenario. He's going to run out of time, essentially, if he doesn't fix that quickly. So, a few things to be concerned about. A few things.
Crookie, another international break obviously brings more Ruben Amorim interviews, and some of the quotes and things he was saying during the international break, which I picked up on, was which I actually thought was quite good, actually. Him sort of saying, I have changed, I have learnt, I have been too emotional. Sort of just picking up on the things that he knows he needs to improve on as a coach. And, I've looked at the data here, and that's why we had to start to go long from Liverpool onwards, etc., etc. Did you like to hear that from him? Because it shows that he has evolved in the last year. And does it back up what you saw? Yes, do the two marry up? Because he says that, but then at the same time, Ryan's just literally spoke about how he is going to stick with the same system, and like you just said, he's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, there've been subtle changes. I think Lomond's coming in has helped with that because he's a lot better with the ball at his feet than both Anana and Altay Bayındır. But you look at games like last night, and there's a big argument that it's his 1 year anniversary since he took charge of his first game, and actually nothing has changed because it was back to the dark old days. And then you look at some of his quotes. He said he's afraid that the old habits of last season are going to set in again. That's not really what you want to hear from the Manchester United manager on the back of defeat. And actually, even before the game, he pretty much said, well, I can't tell you what Manchester United are going to turn up because I never know. Yeah. Well, surely after a year, you should know. It's your job to make sure this team is best equipped and best prepared. It's a massive missed opportunity last night. This show, the league table, would have had such a different complexion if they'd just gone out and done the job properly. They'd have been in the top 5 in the table, only outside the top 4, I think, on goal difference. Instead, we're down in 10th now and facing a daunting trip to Selhurst Park at the weekend, which has become a bit of a dodgy hunting ground in recent seasons. So, as I say, all the goodwill that Ruben Amorim had built up, manager of the month for October, I think was washed away with one dreadful performance. And I reiterate it, for me, that was as lamentable as what we saw against Grimsby.
Yeah, it really wasn't good. And in terms of lack of options and the quality in depth, when we have to start changing things, there was no Seska, there was no Cunha. It left us with the squad that it left us with. Obviously, Martinez was back on the bench, which is good, but obviously wasn't able to come on. It's probably still a bit too early, but it's good to see him back on the bench. Kobbie Mainoo got to come on. I'm not going to lie. I was glad he got on for extended minutes, longer than he's been playing recently. But every time he's come on, I look at him, he's a shell of himself.
It's sad. I agree.
Like, I know football can change very quickly, so if he gets an extended run and can start some games, it can change. But I thought it a couple months ago when he came off when he came off against Brighton, against Brighton, I was just like, he just looks like he's just got no confidence, no rhythm, no continuity. It just looks like, and I don't want to make excuses for him because it's the same as if you get an opportunity, you have to show something. But it's really hard when we start making changes to that first 11, and the drop off is just so big.
Yeah, it is sad with Kobbie Mainoo, and I think that any Manchester United fan probably will say the same thing, that they feel bad, that it's uncomfortable watching it. It's a very sorry state of affairs that it's come to this, and I don't really understand how it's come to this. We've spoken before about, how he says that he's competing with Bruno Fernandes. You ain't dropping Bruno Fernandes as your captain, and he barely gets injured. So what does the future look like for him? And I agree, you come on the pitch, you should be able to grab the opportunity with both hands, but, football players are human beings, and sometimes you need to feel like your manager backs you. You need to feel that confidence, that arm around the shoulder. Kobbie Mainoo's still very young, and to go from the heights of, being involved with England at that Euros final, throughout that whole tournament.
How miles off it is going into the World Cup now.
That
Crazy.
Mentally has got to take a toll. That is a huge drop, and you know what? We're seeing it across Europe. Yesterday the news broke about Vinicius Jr. and how he doesn't feel that his manager backs him and he doesn't want to sign a contract renewal. Whether that's because, he's trying to get a better deal or whatever, people can speculate. But, the reports are saying he just feels like, this guy doesn't back me. I'm 25 years of age. I need to make stuff happen. My future clearly isn't here. You've got Kylian Mbappe and Jude Bellingham. They're the kind of shiny new toys, and scoring in 2 Champions League finals that you've won don't really count for much. And you're seeing a player like that going through something, not the same as Kobbie, obviously, but we're seeing this, that players, for whatever reason, are not being backed. They're not comfortable with it. They want to move on. I want to see Kobbie Mainoo in an England shirt, forever, the Kobbie Mainoo that we used to watch. But it's getting to the point where I don't know what the future is going to look like. He needs more minutes, but you're given the opportunity last night and you don't take it. It is disappointing. But for me, you're looking at AFCON, and that is what is making me nervous. I mean, Mazraoui, it's fine. He can go on an extended break. It's no problem. And it's funny because when he came in, we were all like, wow, this has actually been a decent signing. But he's miles off it, and that's okay. But missing Mbeumo and missing Ahmad is going to be colossal. Cunha's, really got to step up to the plate. He's been brilliant, don't get me wrong, but this is the moment where he's got to really step up. When Šeško comes back, no excuses now. You've had time. Fair enough, you've had an injury, but you're fit enough. It's go time kind of thing. And looking at the bench, though, I think the only attacking player to come on was Mason Mount.
Yeah, that's what we had. Yeah. Because after that, it was like Shea Lacey on there, Martinez on there, Ugarte on there.
You've got to address that, because as the season goes on, you are going to pick up injuries. That does happen. So it was scary for me that looking into the future, if they're at AFCON and we get 1 or 2 injuries more, it's a little bit worrying.
Like, we got bodies to put there. So if you say, just hypothetically, you go, okay, Mbeumo's not going to be there. You go, all right, I can play Mason Mount. You can just start 3 games in a row. No problem till Mbeumo gets back. Or, all right, I'll put Bruno right 10. No problem. Kobbie, you come in. Like, we do have, all right, I'll play Xerxes in a 10. Like, there's things that we could actually do, but then when you think about them playing out, because it's not Mbeumo, and it's not linking up with Ahmad.
There's no guarantees it's going to work.
Exactly, and at wing back, it means you have to play Dalot for an extended period. You have to play Dorgu on the other side. It changes everything.
Of course it does. And then we're all going to be sat here again on the back of a bad result going, they're not used to playing those positions. And, this is the kind of the problem, really. And it does highlight a lack of squad depth, which isn't Ruben Amorim's fault. You did look at that bench yesterday and you think, when we were looking for something, I was thinking, where's this going to come from? Where is this going to come from? And potentially, taking out a defender and putting...
We've had 2 windows to look at. January was obviously heaven and Dorgu. I know Amorim only just got there first couple months. The summer we just put in a whole new attack. Probably not enough money left to get midfielders and get depth. Got a new keeper, to be fair. Was it a case of we did the maximum we could do considering we finished 15th, no Champions League?
Yeah.
And that's what we could have got, 62.5 million both for, Cunha and Buma, so that's a lot. 70 odd for Sesko, so there's a lot of money spent.
Yeah.
Or was it bad planning for you?
No, unless you're Chelsea, it's going to take it's going to take loads and loads of windows to build an actual squad. Lest we forget, I don't know if we're going to move on to Amorim chat and how everyone's feeling about him, but lest we forget, we're still in the building phase. We're still very much there, and we address some first team problems in Šeško and in Bumo and Cunha, which at least 2 out of the 3 look like they were fantastic pieces of business. Lamens comes straight into the squad essentially as well now, which is good business. But in terms of building a squad, these things take time, so there's no doubt about it. Ruben Amorim looked at this bench and thought, oh dear, where can I go? But it's something that we have to be patient with. It's just whether we're going to be patient with Amorim. But at the same time, again, seeing people lose their heads last night about Amorim, and I get it, because you look at this performance in isolation, you go, this is horrendous, a year on, etc. But it's almost like you can't look, it's like building a house. You can't say we need to build the foundations and then complain when the scaffolding's up and there's a bit of a wobble here and a bit of a wobble here. You can't look at the blueprint and go, this doesn't look finished yet. It's not going to be finished yet. This isn't the end of the process, this performance. It's part of the process. It doesn't end there. So it's a horrendous result and a really bad performance. And don't get me wrong, and you can look at that game in isolation and say that. But like we say, more transfer windows, building a better squad and giving Ruben Amorim time, those unfortunately are the solutions in my opinion.
Crookie, Ryan's spoken there about patience. He's spoken about...
You've got loads of patience, haven't you, Crook?
He's spoken about patience. He's spoken about people sort of going in on Amorim and, just getting angry and stuff. Don't know if it felt like he was talking about you specifically.
Just glad he's not in the studio, that's all.
But what do you make of that? Look, Arteta's taken 6 years essentially to build a squad that you look at. Well, I say that because that squad's been competing for the last 3 years, really. So you say it's probably taken.
Took him a good few years. Everyone was Arteta out.
100%.
Lest we forget.
Is that a lazy comparison? Not that Ryan's made, but I mean in terms of like how patient we have to be, or do you see that like we can't keep losing our heads. We will lose games. When you look at our squad, when you look at the lack of depth, the lack of quality past the starting 11, and even the starting 11's not quite there, this will happen across the season. But as long as we are still within touching distance of what the objective is, which is Europe, we just have to get on with it.
I don't know. It's hard to sit and watch games like last night. Honestly, I was watching my 2 lads. Every time I watch with my boys, by the way, they turn an absolute stinker. We sat down and watched the Grimsby game together.
Don't try and blame your kids, Crookie. Come on.
Well, they said to me last night, why don't you go and do some DIY? Because that's what I did during the Grimsby game, and then we scored 2 goals. God. But, we grew up, and I know that we're in danger of harping back to the glory days, but I said to the lads last night, I grew up watching Cantona and Giggs and Hughes and Kanchelskis, and you're watching Dorgu, Mazraoui, Xerxes. I feel sorry for them. Because,
let them switch teams then.
No, I'm not saying that, but there are certain standards. Whatever league position we're in, and there's no divine right for anybody to win titles. We've been there. We've had the glory days. We might never get back there. But there's still basic, bare minimum standards that should be expected of a Manchester United manager, a Manchester United centre-forward, a Manchester United player. And those standards were not anywhere near hit last night. Yes, we're going to lose games, but you can't be losing like that against 10 men, against a team who never look like they're going to score a goal week in, week out. Honestly, my patience is wearing thin. Maybe I'm just not tolerant enough, but I'm not willing to accept that level.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Crookie. Of course you are. That was a dreadful performance. But even then, in your little speech, you said you talked about the players and look at the players that you compare. You said they're watching Dorgu. I think it is part a personnel issue as well. I think we can all look at that and say, is the quality? Is this a Manchester United squad? There's plenty of players. Me and you, Flex. We picked a starting 11. Well, who's the starting 11? There was about 3 players in there that we knew that were nailed
There's
on.
not many players in our team that other teams would take.
No,
in their starting 11s now. The better teams. Forget like Arsenal and like City and that. I'm talking like Villa, Newcastle. I did a combined 11, and I had to lie about a few things just so I wasn't just a sitting duck, sitting on there. I got 3 players in, and it was in a 4-3-3 as well, which we don't even play that.
Yeah.
But like, it got that bad, and spoiler alert, but I don't care. I'm annoyed when Crookie's talking about Dorgu there. So it got to left back. Now obviously we don't even play with fullbacks, right? So I've gone obviously Dorgu. The guy's taking the mick out of me so bad. He goes, right, well, obviously it's Lewis Hall, but to take the mick out of you, I'm even going to put Dan Burn. I'm going to put Dan Burn. And I lost my mind and started getting angry. I was saying, listen, he's just, water carrier for England. I backed it. But
it was close to the bone.
It's like, what are we doing? Obviously, I've put Casemiro in there, He's coming Tonali. I was like... look, you know what I mean? He's laughing at us with Sesko, saying thank you for taking him because I've got Voldemort, mate. And I'm going like, and I'm saying, look, listen, and I stuck up for Sesko. I stuck up for him. Where I did go in, I was like, listen, we're putting Boomer on the right because you still got Jacob Murphy. But anyway, but cut a long story short, I'm going to Newcastle United fans for combined 11s, and
they're below us in the table.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And they're coming out on top.
Back to the point is that the personnel issue, 100%, like it is a big problem. My issue though was when I look at the last 3 games now, which is the second 3 games after the 3 on the bounce, the performances haven't actually been good.
No, they've not.
Forest, not good enough. The first half it was all right, but then we short-circuited for 90 seconds, conceded 2 goals, and then moment of brilliance near the end. Spurs, what did we do? We didn't create anything, and we nearly lost that game. Bad performance. It was just a point rescued near the end. This game, shocking. What have we done? So when you actually look at the type of performances that we're actually putting in post the 3-game wins, it's actually been really bad. It's actually been really bad, but we took the draws because it's like, unbeaten in 5, tricky away games. The home game now we're venturing into the territory of don't start messing that up. When's the last time Everton won at Old Trafford?
It's like twice in 33 attempts or something like
2013,
that.
Was that? I can't remember the game. It might have been probably Fellaini scored or something. I don't know. So shocking. Do you know what I mean? So that's how long they haven't won there, and they're down to 10 men, and they absolutely embarrassed us. So for me, I'm worried now because we'll move on to talking about Palace now, Crookie, because Palace again, we all know how good they are, how organised they are, how good the manager is, how good some of the individuals that they've got are. We know what could be round the corner. Do we need to accept that? And when it happens, try to stay calm? Or will that be a real crisis back on the cards again?
Well, again, suddenly you'll be talking about 4 games without a win. And obviously all the positivity of that 5 games without defeat will have completely gone out the window. And you look at some of Manchester United's most recent trips to Selhurst Park. We all remember that hammering they took a couple of years ago. I turned the game off after about half an hour. Again, I was watching with the kids that night. So it's not been a happy hunting ground. They've had a brilliant start to the season. They've only lost 2 of their first 12 in the Premier League. And what you're going to see is one manager and one group of players who are comfortable with their system and getting the best out of that system in Oliver Glasner, and one manager who frankly isn't. And I know he doesn't want to keep talking about the systems. He keeps telling us it's not the system. That's not to blame. When we're winning games, no one talks about the system. We do actually, because even that Brighton game, they made hard work of it in the end when the subs started to come on. And again, he wouldn't change from the system, and it was square pegs in round holes. This is the system derby. And at the moment, you can only see one winner.
And what changes does Ruben Amorim need to make with the hand he's been dealt? Is it as simple as we better hope Cunha's back? Is it he needs to change something at the back? No point saying change system, change formation. Not gonna happen. What needs to change? Is it just get into them, get them to the players just need to take the onus and go and show something in a really difficult place to go?
As much as Ruben Amorim has to take a lot of the blame for last night, it wasn't good enough. I would like to see a reaction from the players because it did feel, again, Flex, you were there, but the players felt flat. I didn't see a lot of kind of fight and desire. Towards the end, there were a couple of chances, a few crosses coming in, got excited over 1 or 2 maybe, but you never had the real belief that something was going to happen. So I think on the pitch, you need to see a reaction, because I think we can all walk away from games, you know, like the Everton game, frustrated, irritated, not good enough, etc., etc. But at least if you can walk away with, you know what, they were giving it their all, though. You could see that they were trying. It doesn't make everything better, but it makes you feel a little bit better, I would say. So I think we do need a reaction from the players. I'm not too sure about the injury timelines of people. Will Harry Maguire be back?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen much. I need him back.
It's a hard one because you've got Lenny Yoro, who generally has been good, but he had a poor game against Everton and he's lacking confidence. And it just seems like when you don't have that experienced centre-back to kind of swap in for him, I mean, who's your other option? Like, what, Aiden Heaven? Well,
Martinez, like I said, he's back on the bench, which means that
he's not 100%.
If something really bad happened, he would have had to have played, clearly, because he's on the bench. So it means you can play some part. Another week's training again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, depending what his fitness level is, I wouldn't mind seeing him coming in for Luke Shaw, because I agree with Crookie. I don't think that he was good enough at all last night. Cunha, I guess if he's back, yeah, we're going to have to pin quite a lot on him.
Start Mason Mount.
Yeah, I agree as well. Although last night wasn't his night, we have seen what Mason Mount can do, and he is a talent, and he does have it in him. So I think the main thing for me, we need to keep Ahmad and Mbeumo
on that right side.
on the right wing back.
Yeah.
And Mbeumo on that right number 10 position, because that is the only part that brings us joy, and we think, you know what, this is going to be all right. They have to stay in that position, even though I know we're going to lose them in a few weeks and whatever. We need to keep those two. And yeah, I agree. I would really like to see. I'd like to see Mason Mount, because he is a talent, but it's hard. It is so hard.
There's no dead certs with anything, is there? Really? I mean, Ryan, how difficult of a task is it going to Palace? We just. You know, the record we just heard there.
Yeah, I know.
They're a tough outfit for anyone.
Yeah, they're one of the sides in the league that you don't want to come up against. If you're being completely honest. So, when we reviewed the games a few weeks back, and we said, look, this is the one where everyone's going to raise an eyebrow. Unfortunately, we're going into it now on the back of a toothless.
You should have had 3 points
defeat.
in the bag there.
Exactly.
And this is the game where we all accept it's a draw or a loss.
Yeah.
And then back on it against Wolves, back on it against West Ham, back on it against Bournemouth.
Hopefully.
And that completes the great run. But already we've lost one already.
Yeah.
Well, this is it. But I suppose we've talked about the performance now, and there's been no positives. How we're about 45 minutes in, I have barely raised a positive, which is good for me. But one thing I will say, and it's not necessarily a positive, more of an observation, is this is, and Ange alluded to it earlier, such a competitive Premier League. It is it's one of those Premier League seasons where you cannot make accurate predictions. It is so difficult.
No one's settled into the season yet.
Nobody,
I don't think.
apart from Arsenal.
Yeah.
Apart from Arsenal, really, and I say that Palace have been fairly consistent as well. I actually think that will play for and against us throughout the season. I've said that before, because
that when you lose, it's not that detrimental to your overall outcome of the season. But when you win, you can kind of go up a few places.
Yeah, because let's say we turned over Liverpool. We got 3 points against Liverpool. We got 3 points against Chelsea, and then we dropped 3 points against Everton. But that kind of feels like that is how, like you said, we're right next to Liverpool and Spurs in the table, and that is just kind of the way that it's unraveling. I envision that we could probably go there and get something from it.
So it's the other way around. It's like, we'll probably beat Everton at home on the start of this run. Yeah. But actually, we lose against Everton. What if we beat Palace?
That wouldn't that wouldn't shock me. That wouldn't shock. If we're looking at the game in isolation, no, exactly. If we're looking at the game in isolation, I can probably say, they'll be the favourites to win it, and they should be. But it's one of those Premier League seasons where we could probably come away with something, and it won't be as bad. It was basically about whether the international break was kind to Manchester United or whether it was cruel to Manchester United, and it looked like it was cruel. However, 1 week later we come up against this Palace side, the players might be up for it, and let me tell you, that was 60% of the battle yesterday. The performance levels were horrendous. So I envision Palace could still get something, but it wouldn't shock me if Man United come away with something.
Crookie, would it shock you if Man United come away with something at Palace?
It would if they play like they did last night. I've seen Palace this season. I saw them beat Liverpool early in the campaign, and that was a really impressive all-energy performance. I think they've got weapons in, obviously, Jean-Philippe Mateta in particular, but they've got a really strong defensive organisation. I think Chris Richards is having an excellent season alongside Gay and Lacroix. I guess the only positive, I'm doing the game on Thursday night. They go to Strasbourg, which is one of their more difficult games in the Conference League, and they don't have the deepest of squads. They can't afford to rotate too many players. So hopefully that we might catch Palace a little bit leg weary. But I tell you what, if we start with the same lack of intensity at Selhurst Park, which is for me one of the more atmospheric grounds in the country as well, then it could get quite ugly quite quickly.
Yeah.
They've got to be at it right from the first whistle, and they weren't on Monday night.
And that's actually the thing. I mean, we can talk about Amorim in the system, but I think actually the biggest thing that can change from, Tuesday today to the Sunday 12 o'clock kickoff is the players' attitudes.
Yeah.
The players' intent. You know, Amorim isn't going to change certain things, so there's not even any point talking about it. There's certain levels of qualities in certain players that will just never exist or not going to exist by 5 days' time. What can instantly change with the click of a finger is their intent.
Yeah.
And I need to see it. We need to see it. We need to see it. Because Crook is right. That is the only way we're going to get something quite surprising out of that game, because it's the game I looked at in the next 5 that I earmarked and gone, on the best of times, mate, you ain't going Palace and getting much. Especially it hasn't been a happy hunting ground for us in recent years. I take that because the respect is there. You go in there off the back of that, it's either one of two things happening. Like my heart kind of says, my head sort of says, if you go there, no Harry Maguire, maybe a little timid Lenny Yoro, Amorim might play Mazraoui again.
Xerxes up front.
So you got to go Xerxes again. I can't. It could be awful. Yeah. It could be an absolute drubbing, if I'm honest with you. But my heart's like what we're talking about. If they show some intensity and show like, right, what the hell was we doing Monday night? Let's go out there. These lot tired from Thursday. Yeah. Let's stick it on them.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can get something out of it. But my head's saying that's won't happen. Like, let's lock in and get the predictions. Crookie, we'll start with yourself. Predictions. Selhurst Park.
I don't want to predict a defeat, but you've caught me. You've caught me on a bad
Are
day.
you watching it with your kids, Crookie?
No, luckily I'm at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, so just about far enough away.
Right,
from
okay, so we take that into consideration.
We might get something then.
Let's go 1-1, but that's a very pessimistic 1-1.
You can tell what type of 1-1 that is. And you've got to think more positive for us?
Oh, I was going to go 1-1. It's just the easy, it's the easy go-to when we're all feeling so low. Let me try, and I can't lie, though. I can't lie.
Honest.
I you know what? I am going to go 1-1 as well, because I just can't see it being 2-1 in my mind. I thought maybe 2-1. No, 1-1 as well.
Come on, Ryan. You got some positivity for us, Mum. He doesn't.
But I can't.
He doesn't.
I can't sit and lie
like,
to
I could, but I can't.
Don't lie to us. Don't insult our intelligence.
My mind, unfortunately, is gonna go. I'm gonna say a boring 0-0.
Okay. You were honest.
Draw at best.
We respect the honesty.
We can get a draw.
Yeah.
We can get a draw
we
from
can.
turn up. But I can't see us winning it. Hope I'm wrong. Right, big thanks to Crookie, Angelina, and Ryan. This has been Inside Devils. Hopefully, we're coming back here next Tuesday with a positive, with 3 points that none of us predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah? We'll see you on the next episode. Take care, guys.